Hello everyone. Well, welcome to tonight's session for recertification for CCDPs in BC. My name is Gregg Taylor, and past president of the BC Career Development Association and past chair of certification for career development practitioners in BC. And so I'm happy to join you tonight on this webinar and to be able to take you through the steps for recertification. And really, although I'm going to show you a few web pages and a few forms, that when you first see them it may feel a little complex. It really isn't. It'll be fine for me to be able to take you through tonight and show you each of the documents. In the end, although I'm going to show you a few documents, this is what you're seeing now is the BC CDA Association homepage. When you go down to the left-hand column, there's a certification, apply for recertification. We're on the recertification page right here, and there's a few guidelines here, and there's two main sections you can get documents. The first document we're going to look at is this requirements and guidelines grid. And so there's a click here button. So that's going to be one document we're going to start with. Then later on we're going to take a look at two other documents. One is the actual recertification application form that you complete for recertification, and the CEC, the ongoing professional development log form. So in the end, when you're applying for recertification, everything you need is really in these two documents, the application and the log form. But we're going to start up here with the requirements and guidelines because it gives a nice overview. It's kind of the how-to manual for recertification. And so just clicking on that will bring up for you. It'll download and then show on your screen this overview form. And so I'll just take you for a quick walk through this document. Basically, to qualify for recertification, first of all, you need 100 continuing education credits, and there's a variety of ways and means to get those credits. I'm actually going to walk you through step by step what you can do for the activities and how much those activities are worth, and then show you a little overview of how quite easy it is to receive the number of credits required. So that 100 credits is for the whole recertification period. So that's not per year, but per the whole recertification period. So you'll remember that there were a couple different dates for people in terms of the length of their recertification. For people who were registered and approved for certification or applied for certification in February of 2011, anyone who was registered by then or previous to that had a 5-year recertification period, and then anyone after that, which is the biggest majority, who are after, or basically starting in March 2011 and beyond, then they have a 3-year recertification period, which brought us in line with most every other certification that's out there in our sector and in others. So we'll go through what those are in those different categories. You can see an initial summary, kind of a preview here, that there's everything from conferences to association involvement, research and development, formal education, informal learning, training days, workshops, and webinars. So there's a whole range of activities. So that's the first thing. People will need to show that they've collected those, and that's where we'll get to the grid later. The second is that making sure that these activities address one or more of the competencies or specialty areas from the standards and guidelines for career development practitioners. So basically what we're saying is, just like certification in the first place, that was based on the standards and guidelines and our competencies for our sectors, then collecting learning credits or continuing education credits is also based on the fact of it needing to cover a few areas within the standards and guidelines. And so we're just asking that from everything that you do across those 100 credits, that basically that they cover a couple of the core competency areas minimum, and also a couple of the areas of specialization. And so I have another sheet that will show you what those are. And it's all in this document that you can download for yourself after the webinar from our website. And so it's all in this one document that gives you those highlights. The third thing is that so 100 credits that have to cover at least a couple core and a couple specialization areas from competencies. Also, you need to show that you've been an individual member in good standing with the association over the previous period, so your 3 to 5 years. Basically, to use the term certified career development practitioner means that you have obtained certification through the initial application process and that you are sustaining your registration as a CCDP by having an ongoing annual membership in the association. There were some people that got grandfathered in using another association, a couple of people from Voc Rehab, counseling, and a couple others. So we have allowed that for this initial period. Beginning with the recertification and going forward, then people will need to join the BCCDA going forward. The membership for BCCDA is still just at the $100 that it's been at for a fair while. So that just means that you need to have been in good standing and then also be in good standing, which means if your membership is up or coming up, then you'll also need to extend it into this next year once you're being recertified. Now, I also realize that some people aren't looking at recertification quite yet, so it just means make sure to maintain your membership in the association. And many of the certifications who are going for that 3 to 5 year period are really coming up starting in 2004 and then also 2004, yeah, I'm really off my schedule, in 2014, and then the biggest groups are going to be recertifying in 2015 and 2016. So I imagine there's quite a few people probably online today and listening to this webinar who are thinking ahead and saying, I'm not really sure what's going to be required of me once my time does come in a year or two from now, and I need to know what kind of training I need to be doing to make sure I qualify. So I appreciate that you're probably on here not so worried about doing these forms immediately, but probably in the next couple of years. So we'll take a look at that. And then last of all, you just need to submit the recertification application at least a month before your actual current certification period expires. We just want to make sure you get the forms in early enough so that we have time to process them to renew your certification. And last of all, we just ask that most of this be done by email. So the forms I'm going to show you are typable Word documents that you can type in and then save as a PDF or save the Word document and then submit to us by email. Some people, if you need to, you could also print the forms and then do them by hand, but we ask that you just scan them then and then send those forms in to us. We'll get this a little bit later, but there is an audit process for this, and basically how we structured this is it's a process that's kind of an honesty first policy. So when we get to the application and the log form, we're asking you to submit a list of what activities you've done and how many credits you're claiming for them, but we're not asking people to send in every receipt, transcript, training program, conference brochure that you've got collected. We're asking that you hold on to those and that you just submit the list of the activities, and then what we're doing is a random audit of a small percentage of recertification applications each few months, and we'll be just asking for the supporting documents from a few people. So when we talk about those documents, what are those? So basically, what is acceptable activity and documentation. So basically, what we'll want to know about each activity that you do is, did you attend or complete it? How much of an activity, so how many hours of classroom time, how many meetings, what length of time, what was the content or the topic area, the name of the agency you were involved with or the training institution, and the dates that the training or the events occurred. Now, examples of documentation that can support this include receipts that you paid for training or events, certificates of attendance, transcripts from schools, CEU or CEC forms signed by presenter instructors. So you may have seen those from the BCCDA before at events, and also you may be at events sponsored by other associations, and if you're wanting to track your learning from those and submit claims, One way to do that might be to use their CEU form. So if you're at another association, you could also just scoop one of their forms that they're using for their association and have those filled out, and then just keep that in your files as a reminder and as proof that you attended those particular sessions. It could be conference agendas, programs, course outlines. In other words, not every program that you go to may have a full transcript available like a formal school. So what we're saying is, how can you provide us proof that you were there? And that could include a course outline, a program from a workshop or a conference, and the receipt that you paid for attending. Those are supporting documents that could count. And then we also have credits for things that you actually do in terms of writing and publishing. And so that could be copies of the articles or of the blog posts or other things that you've done, screenshots and other things that you may be able to save to show what you've done. So we can actually jump right in to the CEC points, because this is the thing that people are most concerned about. It's not so much just the paperwork and what blanks do I fill in, but how do I know that I'm going to be able to get enough continuing education points to qualify for recertification? And if recertification date isn't yet, what do I need to be doing to collect enough points? So let's take a look through that right now. Basically, this grid, again, available in this document right off the website, will give you the overview. The first category is career development and related conferences, and I've created a little footnote here that says, as with other sections below, other areas of professional development, related activities, topics, have to be closely related to career development, the Canadian standards and guidelines, and/or your specific career development work. So it's up to you to support how it relates to your CCDP work in the log form and then the application form. So you may have some training that at first glance isn't directly about employment or career theories or job search techniques, but it relates to the work that you're doing in your role. So that could be case management, it could be other requirements that you have for your work, and it also could be related to the kinds of clients that you're working with. So we had a question just saying, can I count points for training that was related to mental health that was in support of my work with clients with mental health issues? And of course that would count as a portion of your training credits because it relates to the career development work that you do in your field. So first of all is attendance at career development specific conferences. That could be BCCDA, Career Development Conference, it could be Aspect, it could be Connexus, it could be a career association from another province or perhaps in the US. So career conferences that are very specific to our field. A full day conference is 15 CECs per day, and a half day is 7. So if you attend, for example, our conference, the BCCDA CDC, that's a 2-day conference. And if you attend the full 2 days, then you're able to count 30 credits for that event. And if you go every year, then that's 30 credits per year for the Career Development Conference, which would take you to 90 points after 3 years. So you can see that by doing conferences, you can actually collect a majority of your credits. And as it shows here in terms of maximums from a credits for a category, you actually can collect up to the full 100 credits that you were required to find. If you attend a conference that's related, so it's not specifically career development, but it's on a topic, like I've mentioned, that are related to your work, then you can count it for 10 credits for the day or 5 for half day. If you're actually speaking or presenting at a conference, then we have credits for actually preparing the workshop and delivering it. And so what we have here is credits for the first time. So for example, a 1 to 2 hour workshop, you could get 8 credits for the first time of preparing and presenting it. And then if you present that workshop at future workshops or future conferences or repeat it at that conference, then you can claim 3 credits for the following times. So we've given more credits for the first time to help with cover the prep time and the research done on the workshop, and then we give fewer credits but still credits for teaching it additional times. And then of course for half day it's more, 16 credits, and the full day is 24. And we also have credits for volunteer time, because sometimes volunteering is different from attending. You're not actually getting to sit in, but you're still participating in the sector. So we've got 8 credits per day and 4 credits per half day. So that's the career development conferences and related conferences. The next category is association and membership involvement. So you can get up to 70 credits in this area. So one would be being on a career development association board, and that is 35 credits per year. Because it's quite an engaged and active role and typically has monthly board meetings and research related to the sector. But there's also credits for career development sector association or regional committees. Now, of course, we are happy when these are about BCCDA, but some people have been in other regional committees and or part of committees for other career-related sector organizations, and so that counts. So you can get 24 credits per year for a committee or 12 credits for a half year. And I mean, you can also trim it down from there and say it's 6 credits for a quarter of the year. Also then there's mentoring. I don't know if you've seen it, but on LinkedIn we have a survey going just asking people if they're interested in a mentoring program for career practitioners. But this doesn't have to be only through a formalized program. If you have supporting documents, maybe a letter of support from somebody that you've been mentoring, if it's been very formal, so this isn't just a quick meeting to help somebody with a few questions, but if you actually get into a mentoring relationship with somebody where you're meeting with them a few times, you're helping guide them in their career development, and it may be because you've been connected to somebody to mentor at your job, or perhaps just through networking or the association you've met somebody who's asked for your help. If you're providing ongoing support to them, then you can count 8 credits and collect 8 credits per 3-month term that you're doing that with somebody. And then we have a couple of points here for responding to surveys, just because they aren't always the most exciting thing, but it helps encourage people to get involved in the sector and respond to surveys, both ours and national surveys. The next section is on research and development and writing in career development. So this is the design or development of a career development project, new course, workshop, or program. So this may be outside of your job where you're doing something on the side for a community center. It could be you're doing this as part of your contract work with different organizations if you're a private practitioner and consultant. And it could count also if you're doing this as part of your job role, but where you're actively developing and creating a new workshop or program. And so if it's a 1 to 2 hour workshop, it's 8 credits, half day is 16, and full day program is 24 credits. So that's the development of the program, the writing of the program. If you're publishing writing in the career development field, we have credits for writing a book. 40 credits. We have a writing journal, kind of more formalized, longer articles that are part of a journal entry. It could be shorter articles in a magazine or a newspaper, and it could be a handout or a resource that you're creating for your resource center, for a workshop you're delivering, for use by your staff and supporting your client groups. So if you're creating a new resource, piece of resource material in your work, or for a conference or other activity, then you can claim credits for creating that resource. And some people may be contributing to the BCCDA newsletter or blog posts for your organization, and you can actually count 3 credits for those different activities. If you sit on a panel at a national, provincial, or local forum, you can count 12 credits per day or 6 per half day. So that's slightly different than being at a conference or speaking or teaching at a conference. This is sometimes where, kind of like we have had in past years for internationally trained professionals, where one of the activities was more of a panel interview. And if it wasn't a half day, if it was less than that, then you could just portion out the credits and count 2 or 4 credits for shorter forums. And then there's career development research. 1.5 credits per hour of your research work. And we put this in there because some people are actually doing research work in the programs that they run, and that means tracking the outcomes of clients or the change in client behavior or the learning of clients. Or it could be a research paper related to a particular topic. And so that's a bit different than actually preparing a workshop, but it may be for a report for your organization or for presentation on a panel or for a committee that you're working on, and you may be doing very specific research work, and so you can count your hours in doing that research. The next section is formal education. So again, you can get up to your full credits in this area. If people are taking more advanced training or taking certificates, that can often happen where they get a lot of credits for a formalized program that they're involved in. So for taking courses, if this course is specific to career development, so it's actually one of the career development programs, either courses within UBC, SFU, or other colleges, if it's Life Strategies Online, if it's other organizations or training institutions, then that's 1.75 credit hours per instructional hour, up to a maximum of 45 credits. And so that's significant, meaning that if you're in a formalized training program through a more formalized college, public or private, university or training institute, then you can count those larger number of credits than would be available through a less formal training venue. If the course is for related courses, again, kind of like the conferences, if it's not specific to career development, then you can count 1.25 credits per instructional hour. So if you are taking courses outside of the realm of the normal standards and guidelines, but that are still supporting your work that you do with your clients or in your particular role, then you can count those. And then, of course, we also have the alternate, which is if you're actually developing a first-time course for university, college, or a formal training for an organization, then you can claim 2.25 credit hours. The reason it's more than for the learning is because this is also taking into account the actual prep time that you're doing this. So it's 2.25 credits per instructional hour that will be in the course, up to a maximum of 50 points for the courses, and or 1.5 credits for other related courses that are still supportive of career development and or the work we're doing, but aren't as directly related as career theories, work search strategies, etc. Then there's also informal learning activities. You can get up to 30 credits in this area, so not as much as some of the others, but these are still areas that you can add a fair bit number of credits to your portfolio. So one is reading a book. So if you're just reviewing books both through your resource center or you're actually reading books for your own development, and so it could be books that are more client-directed, or it could be books that are more practitioner-directed. Then you can get 5 credits for that, or 3 for related books. If you're reading journal articles, maybe you subscribe to one of the journals from the US or the Canadian Career Development Journal, you can get credits for reading those. If you're attending a philosopher's cafe or a book club, there's credits for that. Perhaps other kinds of online activities like blogs or podcasts. And then we also have a category, because people had asked us, what about just informal training that's happening along the way in my job? Is there some way to capture that? And so we've put it under this category and called it informal on-the-job learning in a career and employment position. And so we've got 4 credits per 6-month period. So that would be 8 credits per year, which would make 24 credits over, for example, a 3-year certification period. So still, that's quite a number of points that you can count for learning that you've done on the job. And for supporting documentation for that, what you'll need is perhaps a letter confirming that you attended an in-house training that was provided by a colleague or a manager. It could be that you actually needed to learn a topic or a new skill related to your position in the organization, and you could just write and record what that learning was. It may be possible that you're cross-training with somebody in your organization. Perhaps you're doing intake with clients, but now you're cross-training with somebody in another area like the resource room or the facilitators of the small group sessions and the training sessions. And so that learning would all count. And so for all of that kind of learning, just keep a list of the kind of learning that you're doing in your job for the supporting documentation. Then you'll be able to track and claim those 4 credit hours per 6-month period. And then finally, we have training days, workshops, lectures, seminars, webinars, so all those other kind of catch-all for other kinds of training. And again, this is direct training and career development. You can get another 100 points just from this area. And so we have the attendance at 1 hour, 2 credits, 2 hours, 4, full day 10, half day 5, and that's if it's specific to career development. And if it's an other related topic, then you can see the other points that are related to that. Attendance at a webinar is 4 credit hours for a 1 to 2 hour webinar. If you're speaking or presenting at a training day, workshop, lecture, seminar, then it has how many credits, like with the conference and the course. There's a certain number of credits that are for the first time you prepare and deliver that, and then a fewer number of credits that are available for every time you repeat the delivery of that session if it's at other kinds of training days or association meetings or conferences, that kind of thing. And then volunteering time at other kinds of career development events. There's some credits for that. So you can see, having kind of run through that with you, that there are a whole range of activities that you can claim for your credits. There's the conferences, the sector involvement, reading, research and development, continuing formal education, informal learning, and then these training days and workshops. And so, and you get a fair number of credits for the different kinds of activities. The one area that I did also add on as a footnote to this grid is in early 2012, so many practitioners received training on the ICM for the WorkBC system. So when the province's new funding model and the delivery model came into effect, many people spent a lot of time on training related to the case management software and computer system. And so what we decided to do is make sure there was a way to capture that, and people did the training in 2 ways. Some people had very kind of hands-on focused in-person training in a classroom, and other people that weren't using the system as directly but needed to know about the system did more self-directed online or modular online modules for learning. And so here we have on the sheet that self-directed learning or online modules only, if that's how you did the training, then you can claim 1.5 credits per hour, up to 10 credits for doing that whole ICM training. If it was live training that you had to attend because you were a trained trainer or it was part of your requirements for your work, then you can claim 8 credits per day up to a maximum of 35 credit hours for that direct training. If you had a combination of these, then it may be possible that you had like a full day of person training and then a few self-directed hours. You can mix and match those points a little bit to come up with a number that fits, and you just need to support that in your documents explaining what training you did when you're doing the log form. And if you have just an email or a letter from your supervisor saying how much training you did, then that could also be stuck in your file as backup supporting material for yourself. All right, so here's a sample grid of how the credits can add up. So this is a sample person over their 3 years and how they come up with their 100 points. So you can see that this person in one of the years attended the 2-day career development conference, which was worth 15 credits per day, so that's 30 credits. Another year they spoke at a conference and did a 2-hour workshop and prepared it. Here we have them being a committee member in another year. So in year 1 they did the conference and the committee. In year 2 they designed a 2-hour career development workshop. They were part of a book club meeting. They read a career development book, and they developed attended a career development training day. And so that was in that 1 year. So basically they designed a workshop, read a book, participated in a book club meeting, and attended full-day training. And then in the 3rd year they attended spoke for 2 hours at a workshop at a conference. They completed a specific course related, so they went to college and did a one-term course. They participated in maybe a couple of philosophers' cafes. They read another career development book, and they attended a couple shorter webinars. So really you can see that in the end that adds up to their 100 hours. So although that still is some activity that had to be intentional on this person's part, a lot of this that we can weave into the day-to-day of our professional working lives, and it's really not a huge number of hours based on how we spread the credits around the different kinds of activities. So back when we were talking about the requirements, there's all the activities we just went through. And as I mentioned, one of the requirements is that out of all of those 100 credit hours that you've done, that you're claiming, and all these professional development activities, we want them to not be in only one area. So we don't want all 100 credits to be in time management techniques, or absolutely 100% of those credits to all be just on career theories, because of course, our jobs are much broader than that. So what we're asking is that the credits that you collect, you need to be able to show that they touch on one or more of the different areas of the standards and guidelines. And it's quite broad. So first of all, we're asking that it touch on at least 2 core competency areas. And those core competency areas, first of all, is professional behavior that includes all of these sub-items. So code of ethics, professional relationships, keeping up with technology, solution-focused frameworks, analyzing information, time management skills, project management, program evaluation. So any kind of training that relates to any of those topics, of course, fits within the standards and guidelines. So that means the kind of training is quite broad that you could be doing, and that's quite a selection. So anything from among that would count you already towards one core competency. A second core competency area is interpersonal competence. So that's about dealing with diversity, communicating effectively, written communication skills, working with clients, dealing with reluctant clients. So any training that you've done related to that, that's a second core competency area. A core competency third is career development knowledge, and so that is specifically career development theories, human development theories, change and transition, life roles, major components of career planning processes, resources and labor market information. All come under that category. And then the fourth one is needs assessment and referrals. So how to assess clients and make referrals. So that's the 4 core competencies. You just have to show that from your 100 credits and your various activities that you've touched on at least something from within 2 of those 4 major categories. And then you also need to show from the areas of specialization that your activities have also crossed over at least 2 of these specialization areas. So it could be anything to do with client assessment or career assessments, group facilitation skills, career counseling skills and theories, and guiding people in their career direction, information and resource management, work development, which can be both developing work opportunities for people through job development, as well as anything related to job search, resume writing, all of those practical strategies, and community capacity building. So that could be any kinds of activities related to connecting and creating partnerships with other organizations in the community, creating partnerships with employers, putting in proposals for new kinds of services and programs. So all of that, all topics, training, research that you're doing from the credit hours we were looking at before just need to cross over a couple of those areas. So it really is quite manageable from amongst, and that could include, of course, reading books in these areas, right? So if you take a look at the kind of training you're doing and finding it's a little bit targeted at one particular area, then you can go through this and just say, before recertification, I need to spread this out a little bit. So maybe I'll take a course in assessment, or maybe I'm going to read a book on the Jim Bright's book on chaos theory of careers. So that'll help me cover another one of the specialization areas. So remembering it's from across all of your activities. that you're to meet a couple of the core areas and a couple of these areas of specialization. I had a quick question in the chat area. I'm not sure if you're all familiar with the GoToMeeting system here, but you'll notice in your toolbar that's come up for you that there is a chat area, and you can actually type questions in that can go to us. So if you have questions, please ask them as we're going along. Somebody's asked, would employment law course count as a course related under continuing formal education? So yes, a course related to employment law would be applicable, for example, or employment standards or those kinds of things, because that's directly related to career development, employment development for our clients. Okay, so that is the grids, the standards and guidelines, the credit hours that are required, and it's all on this form that was available on the website through the click here button under this guidelines section. Now the next section that we can take a quick look at is the application form and the CEC log form. And so what I'll do is I'm going to click on the log form first, and so if you click there, I already have it loaded up here in Word, and so I'm happy to just show it to you here. And basically the log form is very simple. It's a typable form, so you click in the box and it allows you to type in your information. And what we're looking for here, this is where you're providing the list of the activities that you've done based on that grid I just showed you, and it actually has a quick summary of the points and what the value is right here. And so for career development conferences, for example, it reminds you of what the credits are available for different kinds of, whether you're attending or speaking. So you could put in here, for example, that you went to CDC 2012 with the BC CDA, and then you could put the dates, and then you could put a couple of the topics covered, but you don't have to list absolutely everything here, but you can mention some topics covered. And basically up here at the top of the heading for the activity, it asks what's the activity, what was the topic, the content, what were the dates, how many hours, so you could put 2 full days, and then the number of CECs claimed. And so over here you would put that I'm claiming 30 points because I attended the 2 full days of the conference, 15 points per day. And then when I think back over the topics between the keynotes and the sessions that I attended, I can say that I attended a workshop that was about career development knowledge. I took one that was on this assessment process, and I also took one on work development and for job developers. And so you can see that you've already then covered 1 core competency and 2 specializations just by that 1 conference. So then you go down to the next section and look at your involvement. So if you've been on the board, or if you've been part of a regional committee or an association committee, or if you've done mentoring or responded to surveys, then you can type them in the box here. And then for each one that you type in here, so if you have a couple events listed here, then when you're doing the points over here, then you can also space down and then put in the kind of points that you're claiming for each of those events. And so you can have those separately in the box. Then there's the association involvement. Then there's the boxes for designing, research and development, publishing and writing, developing workshops. Then there's the section on taking courses. So this is the formal career development courses, formal education courses. And so you can list the courses here and how many hours they were, and what the course name was, what the school was, what the dates were, who the professor was, and just that summary information, and then tick off what categories from the standards and guidelines those courses covered, and then put the credit hours that you're earning based on the credits that are available per instructional hour. Then you'll check off if you've been reading books, reading journal articles, and this on-the-job training. So this could be put where you could put for each 6-month or year period, just say on-the-job training, and then list the topics or activities you did briefly in the form here, and then in the right column put the points that you're claiming for that. and then finally the other training days. So basically, this gives you a place to type in all the different activities. So my recommendation is that people download this form and either print it or save it, and then as you go through your day-to-day professional development life, every time you do something at work, create a workshop, create a handout, attend a workshop, go to a conference, then both keep that supporting documentation in one file or box or envelope, but then start writing it in here so that you're actually tracking it as you go. And so even if you have to come back and edit it in the end, you've got the information there. The easiest way is just to print off this form and then kind of in shorthand write down short notes about the activities that you're doing as you go along, and then when it comes time for recertification, at least you'll have a cheat sheet where you've listed basic activities, and that'll remind you to go back to that file, that book, that area to look up what it was, and then to add more detail for this form. And then it gives you a place to add up your whole column for the total CECs. And I'm thinking that for most people in our sector, based on the work we do, a lot of people are going to, over a 3 to 5 year period, are going to earn and really more than 100 credit hours of activity. We just need you to show us 100, but if you show more than that, you don't have to feel like showing 200 is better, but I mean, if it goes over or you get enthusiastic and as you go through you just end up at the end with more credits than you need, that's of course no problem. And if you're missing some, then it may just give you an idea that you have a few activities that you'll need to take up to make up the hours that you're missing. So that's the log form. So that's one half of the application. So this form you would fill out and submit with the application form that is on the website and is right here. So under the recertification page on the website, down here is the application form, and there's 2 sections. The first section is the policies related to recertification, so much of a summary of what I've just told you. So what we're asking for in step 1 is to read all the requirements. Step 2 is to fill out this form and then to submit it by email. And so the basic checklist for submitting the application is complete section 2 of the application. I'll scroll down in a moment to show you. Then delete the first part of this whole document because it's just the instructions. Then fill out the log form and then save all of those documents as PDFs for emailing to us. So here we'll go. I can scan quickly down this document and basically get to section 2 because this is the part that you actually fill out. And so here's the first section is your personal contact information to make sure we have all your recent contact. The next piece is here. When we first certified you, we would have sent you a certificate that has a certification number on it with your certification date, and you'll also be able to figure out your expiration date from that based on your kind of 3-year renewal term. Then there's section 2 is where you list the professional association memberships that you've been holding over the last 3 to 5 year period. So remember, to keep certification, you have to show that you've been maintaining professional membership in the association during that period of time. We've had a couple people that, unbeknownst to them, had expired or missed a period during that. And although it won't be our long-term process because it gets complicated, we've had some people that had to basically renew their membership, and then they also kind of made up or paid for a period of time that they had missed in the past. But basically listing the membership, and then also you'll need to make sure you have a membership that's valid now going forward. So this is the log of what memberships you had during the period of your certification. And then there is the credit claim summary form. So basically what you do is you fill out the log form, figure out how many credits you're claiming for the different categories that add up to your 100 or more credit hours. And this is just a short summary form for us to get a quick glance at what you've done. So you just fill out your name, certification dates, and information. And then in this column here, we're just asking how many credits are you claiming from each of the major categories, which matches directly up with the log form, and then what are the total credit hours that you're claiming. So really it's just a bit of a transfer of some of your credit totals so that we can see a little summary here on our overview page. And then also from all of those activities, from the log form, basically just showing what core competency and specialty areas that you covered within the 100 credit hours. And so that's going to be really easy to do. I think if we go back to the log form, if you look at the conferences, if you look at the books you're reading, if you look at the workshops you're developing, if you've written blog posts, you're taking courses, you've gone to any kind of workshops or trainings, you'll see that for each of these sections you can be ticking off what category of competencies were covered in those activities, books, or other things that you've been doing. And so when you get to the end of your log form and have all of that, you can then go back to your summary form and just quickly fill in the credits and the categories that you've matched on this. So really that's the form, and then finally there's a statement of understanding. That's just our commitment to in recertification and our acknowledgement of what certification means. Just a quick summary. For example, we can revoke the CCDP credential if somebody is proven to have breached the code of ethics in a significant way that's affected clients or their organization, convicted of criminal offense, performed actions or inactions that have caused serious harm to the profession, provide false or misleading information, or fail to maintain their individual membership in the association. And as I mentioned, in the kind of grandfathering stage, we did have a period where we were accepting memberships in other associations during that initial phase while people were kind of getting blended into the career practitioner sector and or their certification. But basically starting from people's recertification period, then everybody across the board is going to have a membership in the BCCDA. The good news is that our membership fee is very reasonable compared to most other associations. So you'll see here on the payment form, that's all part of that application package. Basically, you can fill in your payment information. The standard renewal for certification is $150 plus GST. And if you need to rejoin because your membership's expiring, you can do it at the same time. Some people's membership matches up with their certification period. Other people, it's a very different time frame. But if you need to renew your membership, then you can also do it on this same form. And then it gives you the address where to send this in. And so you could phone in your payment, or you can fill out this form and you can fax it or mail it in to us. So that's the whole application process. Is basically there's the 3 documents on the BCCDA website. The first one is that first sheet I took through, which is kind of the user-friendly overview booklet that just tells you about what's the requirements. It gives you that grid of the points, and it shows you also the sample of those standards and guidelines. And okay, I have a good question that's been listed here. Somebody was just asking, can we carry credits into the next certification period, or do we have to start fresh each certification period? Excellent question. Yes, the training, activities, books you're reading need to be within the certification period that you're claiming. So really there isn't a carryover into other periods. You need to be able to claim it. So for example, if you're in your certification, you've got 3 years, you're going to recertify in 2015. It's just the dates, the activities you've done between the date you were certified originally and the 3 years later coming up when you are doing your recertification. So that's the period that all of these activities would count within. I mean, I get the question, because if you've invested in training and all that, it would be nice to carry them forward. But the idea is that when you get recertified, you're recertified for an additional 3-year period. So the idea of certification is not just to say somebody's met the standards to be certified, but they're committed to an ongoing learning and professional development process. So that means we want to make sure that people are doing 100 equivalent hours of professional development during that new 3-year period. And I think it's reasonable to require that, because it just means that people are doing their ongoing learning. Because partly it's not just kind of like graduating from university and saying, okay, I earned the degree and I did the work up to that point and now I have the degree. Certifications across all sectors are different in that it's saying that people have they've qualified to get the certification, but that also by maintaining one and being able to use that designation, there's also a sense that people who have it are doing ongoing learning on an ongoing basis. And so certification is about that ongoing learning process. So that means in each certification period, each 3-year period, that's the period within which you're going to be able to collect those credits towards the next recertification. So I hope that explains it adequately for you and that makes sense. So it is possible that people will have much more than 100 credits, and that just means you're really active in your professional development. Other people may need to be watchful because if you're busy in your work and you haven't been able to go to conferences and all, it just means at some point you're going to need to pay attention to how many credit hours. But remembering all the different categories, so you can jump on a committee through the association, you can develop a workshop to deliver at a community center or to another group of people. You may just be mindful of the work that you're doing in your job if you're actually creating workshops, creating handouts, creating resource materials, doing on-the-job training, and making sure you check for those sections in the forms to see how many credits you can collect, because there are quite a lot of credit hours you can collect for those other kinds of activities outside, of course, of just kind of going to conferences. Okay, I think I've missed a couple questions, so I'll just jump on those. So somebody has asked, if I attend the CDC for 3 years, 2 days each time within the recertification period, can I claim 90 credits? So yes, if you go back to that form that has all of that information, if you look at the credits on the form here or on the log form, it shows that you can collect all the way up to the full 100 credits by going to conferences. So that means, yes, if you attend the CDC or a career conference, it's 15 credits per day, you go 2 days per year, and you attend every year, then yes, you can actually count all 90 credits from those conference days that you attended. Somebody else has said, would volunteering at the Internationally Trained Professionals Conference count as volunteering time at the career development event? Yes, that definitely would count. So it could be if you go to Connexus on Ottawa, if you volunteered at other events. So there's a couple places for the volunteer credits. One is specifically the conference, so if you volunteered at the CDC or at the ITP, the Internationally Trained Professional Conference, or if you help with a training day, there's another section under workshops and training days where you can count points for volunteering at those as well. Then the good question is, do we need to have points in each of the 6 categories? So no, you don't. If we take a look at the log form, that's probably a better way to do it, then you can see that although it has all of these areas, you can get all your credits from conferences because you can get up to 100 credits. Now, it just means that you can't get it all from membership and involvement. So just because you're on committees and boards, you cannot get all of your credits. You can get up to 70, which would be 2 years on the board in that time period, but we count it as great credits to be on a board, but it also doesn't completely cover the area of personal training and knowledge transfer, and so that means you can get only 70 credits in that one area. For research and developing of courses, you can count up to 75, so you could get all 75 in there and then just add 25 credits from another area. And then for continuing formal education, if you take a whole training program at a college or university, you can get all your credits through that. Informal learning is the smallest category, but up to the 30 points. So by reading books and on-the-job training, you can probably easily get up to that 30 points. And then workshop and training days is another full 100 of eligibles. So you can get them from all your training credits from one type of activity or one section of activities in here, or they could be a spread across all the other ones. The main concern and not even concern, is that when you're looking at what you've done, to make sure that you are covering at least a couple of the core competencies and a couple of the specialty areas. But even if you're in a longer-term course where you're going to count all of your credits coming from one big course you took at a university, likely you're going to have enough topics from within that. Or if you count all of your topics coming from all your points, or 90 points from career development conferences, likely the workshops and the keynotes will have covered quite an array of topics from within the different competency areas. So I think it's quite flexible there. So yes, you can, well, no, you don't have to have points from all of these categories. They can be very much mostly from a couple main areas that are specific to what you've been able to do over the training period. I'm just checking a couple more questions. Okay, please feel free to add a couple in. I have a few moments that can answer a couple more questions that come in. And otherwise, just to summarize, basically we've made the process as easy as we can. Of course, easiness is in the eye of the beholder. And as somebody who was participating in its development, that may make it all seem a bit easier to me since I've seen these forms before. But in the end, remember at the time of certification, there's two forms to submit. The application form, section 2, where you fill out the details. There's the statement of agreement that you sign and the payment form that are all in that document, and then the log form that summarizes it. And please remember, you do not have to then attach all your supporting documentations or proof of every course and transcript and programs and details. All of that we need you to keep, and we need you to keep it for 1 year after you submit your certification forms. So basically over your 3-year period, you're collecting all of these forms, course information, copies of articles you've written, you're putting them in a box or a file. Then at recertification time, you're filling out the log and just listing what you have there and how many credits it's worth, and filling out the application, submitting that, and then what we're asking is for you to keep all of that documentation for 1 full year after you submit your forms, because we will be doing random requests for audits for those documents over that 1 year period. And so please keep those on hand for that 1 year period. So we've also just got a confirmation. So yes, it does mean that in one of those training areas, you may have 0 points from formalized learning. So you may not take a formal course from a college or university, which means you wouldn't have any points from that section, but you may have done tons of conferences or other kinds of training days and webinars. For other people, they may have designed lots of courses. So you may have lots of points from one section, and you may have 0 points from one section. The key is just to make sure that it's covering a couple of the core competencies and a couple of the specialty areas, not each event that you're doing, but across all the events and all the credits that you're claiming. Somebody's also asked, what about organizing career and employment fairs? Depending on the kind of work that you've done, you could count career and employment fairs. You could count that as community capacity building. You could count that as volunteering at a career development event, because it's not so much like you're developing a workshop or a training, and it's not really like you're attending a conference and sitting in training workshops. It's a different kind of event, but you could count it as a volunteer, especially if you're planning it, or if you're actually manning a booth at the career fair, then you could put that as volunteering at a career event. Somebody else has asked, if I lost the workshop I attended at the CDC, what can I do? So what you can do is you would be able to show you were at the CDC by, hopefully you have probably an online receipt for your payment, or an online confirmation that you would have received in your email that proves that you actually paid for, or you'll at least have a visa slip or a visa statement that shows that you paid for the CDC. And you may have the program guide from that, or you may just have to document what it was. So we just need proof that you were at the conference. You may not have to list for us every single session that you attended at the conference, just proof that you were out there for the full 2 days. So I just want to encourage everybody. Thank you so much for attending the workshop. You know, in just thinking about the big picture, certification, I believe, is important to our sector. That there's a value to our careers. I think showing that people are committed to the work that we do, that we're committed to our professional development, helps build confidence in the public and in employers, in us as a profession. It promotes that we're not just another job, that we are, but we do have a particular area of knowledge and expertise and competencies that we bring to our job. And I also think it's good for us as individuals. First of all, it helps us be mindful of what professional development we're doing. And also for myself, I, of course, had my company that was doing career development work for many years that I sold a year or two ago, did some consulting, but during this last couple of years, I actually looked for work because I've gone back to do my master's in counseling, and so wanted something more kind of grounded and a regular job, so to speak, to do between my studies. And so I obtained a role through Family Services in their employee assistance program. And I'm working as a workplace mental health consultant and account manager for their work. And when I was hired, one of the things that they did notice was my certification in career development, and that was one of the reasons for them choosing me. Of course, we all have lots of skills and training that we bring, but they were just glad I had it because they want to promote to their members and to their customers that the people working in the office and that are coming in to consult in the workplace have relevant training to working with employees in employment settings. And so having that career development certification was definitely a bonus and a plus on my side when I was selected for the position. So even not specifically in a career development role, I'm not doing career development employment counseling work in my current job, but my employer really values the fact that I have that certification because it helps show my well-roundedness and the kind of areas that I can work within. So just a quick story for you that how it's actually played out in my own life, even though I'm working outside the kind of the bounds of our kind of the core of our sector. So just to let you know that CDC is already being planned for the new year, so information on the conference is already up on the website, and so you can check updates there anytime if you're interested in who the speakers are going to be. We've also Dawn has been working hard along with office staff to put out a new regular newsletter to our membership, and so you'll see updates, and they've been doing a profile of some of the keynote speakers that are going to be coming up at the conference. So keep your eyes peeled for that, and watch out for the early bird fees that will be kicking in soon for registration for CDC. And it really is the great value for your money. First of all, it's one of the premier events for our sector. And it really is kind of a coveted event across the country. Not every province has an event like we have here. So you get a great wide array of training, and it's also worth, for those 2 days, 30 credit hours. So it really covers almost all of your annual credits that you need to collect each year of your recertification period. So it really can be a benefit to you as well. So I'm really glad to have been part of this with you. Just coming up as well with the BCCDA, we're coming up with new tools to make life easier. We've got a new software tool that we're using for managing our member profiles, and so soon you'll be hearing word of how you'll be able to have your own profile on our database that you can actually update yourself. And when you attend any of our events like conferences or trainings, it's going to when you register using your membership number, you'll be actually automatically registered, and you'll be able to track your credit hours in your profile on our website. So that's exciting. And we're also going to be doing a CCDP registry on the website, because we have employers and other people calling to say, hey, somebody said they're a CCDP, are they registered? So we're going to have a website page where it'll have a list of all the current and active CCDPs. Not private information, but just a list of names and who's registered as a CCDP. And so it's important to think about maintaining that certification. And so just remember that requirements for maintaining CCDP and using that term, there's been confusion over the years. Just people have gotten a certificate as a career practitioner from a college or a university. That's not certification. There's a whole application process for certification to become certified through the association and sector. And then to maintain that, because using the designation means that you've committed to membership in your association and you've committed to ongoing learning. And so we just ask that you catch up with us. If there's been any kind of missing pieces for you over the last little while, just get in touch with Donna at the office and make sure that you're up to date in terms of membership, and then make sure that you download these forms and are starting to track your activities that you've been doing the last couple of years and for this next year period going forward before your recertification date comes up. Okay, well, I don't see any more questions coming up in the chat box. So hopefully that means I've answered your questions. Please feel free to contact the BCCDA office. I believe it's info@bccda.org. And so you can feel free to call and or check through the website through the Contact Us page and ask your questions, because we'll likely have a few questions and we'll follow up with a blog post in the next few weeks. And also we've recorded these sessions. I did one earlier today and then also this one this evening. So we've recorded these, and these will be posted to the website and to the BCCDA blog in the next while. And so if you've been found this to be useful, and you're talking to colleagues and they ask you about it, or if people mention to you that they're wondering about this recertification process and whether they're going to be able to do it, please let them know that there is going to be a recording of the webinar on the website that then they can easily watch and replay and get all the details. So hopefully that has been helpful for you. And it's been a great privilege to be able to share this information with you. And I love this sector. The work that we do is great, and the people that we help, the way we help people is tremendous. So I encourage you in the work that you're doing out there, and so feel free to drop us a line on how it's going for you out there. And in the meantime, I'll say goodbye for tonight. I appreciate your being online with us and taking the time to consider and plan ahead for your recertification process. Thanks very much.